Welcome to Examined Leadership Podcast. This is our second episode. We're continuing to talk about the principles of war. I am Kurt Lichty.
And I am Andrew Idy.
And our purpose, as we discussed last time with the first principle of war, our objective is to help you develop, to help you examine your own leadership. We want to encourage you to look deeper. What's inside? How can you unlock your potential, personal development, specifically leadership? And that's what we want to discuss. So as we're discussing that, today is the second principles of war. There are 9 total principles. The first one is objective. The second principle is offensive. You got a lot of good material today, Andrew?
Yeah, this is a great topic to cover because if you're talking about military, if you're talking about sports, you're talking about business. If you don't go on the offensive, you don't gain. You don't gain anything. And in this book, I'm going to be referencing this book called Discipline Equals Freedom, written by Jocko Willink, who is one of my idols. He's someone that's helped me change the way I view life and helped me change a lot of things in my life by taking ownership of my life and developing discipline, which is a topic that will be touched on, I think, every single podcast. He has a chapter in this book called Default Aggressive, which is a lot like the offensive. And in this book, he says that we want to be dictating what happens and not responding to it.
That's exactly right. It's funny. I didn't tell you how I was preparing. You didn't tell me how you were preparing. You brought a Jocko book. What's that one called?
This book is called Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual by Jocko Willink. And it just has a bunch of different principles on how you can discipline your life, and the principles of the military and of training and everything applied to daily civilian life and in business.
That's hilarious. So I brought a Jocko Willink book also called The Dichotomy of Leadership. It talks about leadership and how it's applied, military principles applied to business, which is also what the military does. West Point's website has, which we talked about last time, the 9 principles of war outlined, and gives their application to business as well. I'm just going to read the short intro to offensive so we can get some context of what we're really going to be talking about. Offensive. Seize, retain, and exploit the initiative. Offensive action is the most effective and decisive way to attain a clearly defined common objective while maintaining freedom of action and achieving decisive results. Offensive demands disruption. Speaking of business now, you should be first to market by establishing the bar. Of course, you'd prefer to have market share and defend against the newcomers than try to break in with possibly nothing more than a knockoff. If you want to own the high ground, take it. You should want to be there first. Thoughts?
You want to be there first. You want to win, right? And so being able to do that is you have to be aggressive, which means you're ready to attack. And a lot of that comes with planning. So you have to know your market. You have to have your business strategy. He talks about here that being default aggressive, it doesn't always mean that you want to walk around with your chest puffed out, ready to bang heads with everyone, but it means you're ready to get after it, which means you're ready to take that high ground. You have that mentality that you're going to be aggressive and you're going to be ready to attack.
Yeah, I think in your personal life, at work, at war, you need to be offensive. Sitting back and waiting, we both belong to the same religion. There's a scripture that talks about the Lord created things that are to act and things to be acted upon. I'd much prefer to be the one acting than to be acted upon. It's a difference between being proactive and reactive. If you're waiting your whole life to react to situations, or if you're sitting at your job and you're always reactive to problems instead of proactively seeking out solutions and innovation, you're not going to get very far. You're going to live a mediocre life. And nobody follows a mediocre person. Nobody says, hey, man, that Andrew Idy, that dude is average. I really want to be like that guy. Hey, check out the mediocrity in Kurt. Boy, let's follow this mediocrity. Nobody says that.
Nobody says that, exactly. And I think that you could also use the term, and I think sometimes people take this with a grain of salt because they might feel a little bit hesitant. Like, oh, I'm not a very hard-charging person. I'm not someone that's going to lead a squad up a hill that's disadvantageous. You got a turret on top of the hill firing down at you. I think a lot of people listening to this will probably be like, this doesn't apply to me. I'm not someone that can muster that courage to lead a team up a hill that looks like it might be hard, that might be failure. I'm not a very aggressive person. So I think that something that we need to keep in mind is when we talk about being aggressive and when we talk about having a default aggressive mentality, going on the offensive, Jocko says here that aggression is an inward trait. He says here that I don't view aggression as an outward attitude. I view aggression as an internal character trait, which I think is interesting. What do you think about that? How can aggression and going the offensive be an internal trait and not always an outward attitude?
That's great. It's something I hadn't really considered. Most of what I'm talking about and what I had thought to talk about today was about external traits. But I think you're right, and I'd love for you to give some advice to people who are thinking that. I think it's about wanting to improve and be your best. Like waiting, being reactive, inspiration for one. I heard a quote this week, I think it was John Maxwell, that said, inspiration doesn't strike, it's sought. So even introverted people or people that aren't, in your face, rough and tough, I'm going to get out there and be aggressive. It's about inwardly seeking to be your best. Instead of waiting for inspiration to strike you, seek it. Let's start acting. Let's start moving. Let's start learning. Daniel Boorstin said the greatest enemy of learning is knowing. If you already think you know everything, that's the greatest enemy to learning. And the goal of learning is action, not knowledge. So no matter what you're learning, and no matter how introverted you are, the whole goal of living is to learn and to act upon that knowledge.
Exactly. And I think that a way you can do that is a term called preventative maintenance. And I think that is being aggressive, and that's going to the offensive. And how so? I like what you said. It's not struck down on you, inspiration. It's sought out. You know what I mean? And how people can do that is preventative maintenance, which is doing little things daily that keep you alert and ready to attack. And I think you need to arm yourself with knowledge, and the more knowledge you arm yourself with, you can better structure a plan. But you need to be able to do that and to keep you on your toes and ready to alert and be ready to attack and to launch, some kind of campaign, some kind of offensive. And I can't tell you how many times in work, a situation has come, and because we've exercised preventative maintenance daily, whether that's reading books, listening to podcasts, working out, taking care of yourself daily, which are all inward traits, it helps you be more offensive because you feel better equipped. I guess that's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I had thought to share a few personal examples. Maybe you can think of a few to share also in my personal life, at war, and also at work. So my first example, since this is a principle of war, being offensive, first war game I participated in. I'm in ROTC, BYU. We're playing paintball, but this is war. We're preparing for war. We had a strategy set out, and we rushed to take the best spot on the hill. We're in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains here. We went way up. We got the best spot. We've gotten a good position. We sunk in. We dug in. We're looking over the ridge to see the enemies coming up. We had the best spot for sure. And as we settled in to make sure we had cover, to make sure we could protect the hill, our flag behind us, our fort, we thought we could see the enemy as they were approaching. They came so fast and they were so daring. It was all of a sudden there was somebody right next to me shooting the three people sitting behind the ridge with me. Because it was paintball, there's no fear of death. So it's a little bit different than actually going to war. But there was no fear. These dudes came up. They took the hill. They shot everybody next to me. I shot a few. Eventually I got killed too. They took the flag. They won. I mean, the default aggressive, the straight offensive campaign they led, even when we had a superior position, it was impressive. I grew up in Chicago, went to high school in Chicago. Even on one-on-one fights, I learned very quickly, after getting beat up several times, that usually the first person to get a good hit in wins. So I learned if I'm about to get into a fight, especially with a bigger person than me, I'm going to hit you first. I'm going to get a really hard strike right in your nose. I'm going to make your eyes get blurry. I'm going to break your dang nose before you can do anything to me. I remember when I moved out to Utah, the first big guy that rushed me, it was on a basketball court. This guy was like 6'5". I'm 5'11". I'm cut, but I'm a thin dude. This is like a you guy. This dude was huge. And I said something on the basketball court, and he got mad. I can't remember what escalated this incident, but he rushed across the court. He came flying at me with his fist clenched. And I thought, oh boy, here it goes. My rule is if you come within arm's length of me and you look like you're going to fight me, I'm not going to wait to get hit. This dude hits me in the face first, I'm done. So as soon as he came within arm's length, I blasted him right in the face. It knocked him back. He stumbled back. He was so stunned. I was ready to go 3, 4 more, 5 hits on him. He was so stunned. He's like, whoa, you just hit me in the face. I was like, yeah, man, you ready for more? Mm-hmm. But it stopped. It was done. I'm not allowed to. And then all my friends are like, why'd you hit him? He wasn't going to fight you. I don't know that. I'm not going to I don't want my jaw broken. Our brother's got metal plates in his face because he waited to hit. Mm-hmm. Hesitation, not being offensive, being reactive when it comes to war or fighting or other examples we're going to give here. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to hit first.
Exactly. And action overcomes fear. You mentioned the word hesitation. Hesitation is when we don't know what action to take. And I know we talk about this a lot at work, that the best plan is the plan that you choose to execute. And who knows if punching the guy in the face was the best plan or not, but it's the plan you executed and your objective was reached. You're alive and you don't have a plate in your face.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you reminded me of a quote I wrote down earlier. Action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. People that have their confidence lost, they're shot, they just got fired, they just went through a divorce, they're stuck, they're not getting promoted. Someone recently was frustrated. They worked so hard and didn't get employee of the month. They lost their confidence. Action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. Start acting. You might even be right in your complaints, but being right is not helpful. Start acting. Inaction is not only the result, but the cause of fear. Inaction is not only the result, but the cause of fear. Perhaps the action you take will be successful. Perhaps a different action or adjustments will have to follow. But any action is better than no action at all. If you want to close the door on fear, get moving. So last example, then I'll let you speak. I'm doing a lot of talking. Work example. Just this last week, I've had at least 2 really good examples of inaction taken by leadership. And it's stifling the problems that we could handle these problems, but they don't want to act. We found an issue with our market and we want to act. We brought a solution. This is a great tip if you're an employee. Don't bring problems to your boss without bringing at least 2 or 3 solutions. He doesn't want to hear your problems. Bring some solutions. We brought some solutions to him. His answer, let's noodle on that a little bit longer. It's your favorite answer, huh?
That's my favorite answer because it's the opposite of default aggressive. It's default passive.
It is.
And absolutely, there's patience and there's passivity. And being patient also doesn't mean inaction. You can act while being patient. For example, I wanted to buy a house this last year. And the market is absolutely terrible. Our economy is doing too well. And that's kind of funny that our economy is doing well and I can't buy a house because of that. It's kind of ironic. But anyways, some people think, oh, you got to be offensive. You got to go make that purchase right now. But I'm like, no, I'm going to be patient and I'm going to rent and save up money. So I have a plan of action. It's not passive. Patience, you can be patient and default aggressive at the same time because I had a plan of action. My plan of action was to wait for the market to slow down while actively saving and learning how to budget better. That's aggressive and patient at the same time.
That's a wonderful example. Wonderful. You don't have to just be aggressive and jump into a problem without even coming up with a good plan. My problem with this response given by leadership, let's noodle on that. Well, it's been 10 days and we're still noodling and no one's actually doing anything. Noodling means let's just not act. Or another example, just 2 days ago, we were having a problem in our Japan market. And so we wanted to act. We went over to the call center's managers and said, hey, here's our plan. We started working with account managers from Japan and said, here's how we can support. Here's some videos. Here's some tools that we can give you. Let's start cross-training some agents. We can resolve this problem right away. Leadership, what's their response? Gents, let's hit the brakes a bit. Hit the brakes a bit. Okay, what's your plan? Do you need more stats? Do you need more information? No, he's just uncomfortable with the action. And so we've hit the brakes, but actually we've stopped altogether. So now there's still the problem. No action is being taken. There's not even patience with action, like you said. There's not even a plan developing. The brakes have not just been hit a little bit, they've been put completely. And so now this problem is going to continue to grow and get big. Your problem doesn't go away. This problem is only getting bigger and it's going to be harder to solve in the future.
Exactly. And as you're saying this, anyone that out there appreciates World War II history, you have to watch the show or the docuseries, the mini docuseries on called Band of Brothers on HBO. Came out in, I think, 2001, about Easy Company, the first World War II, one of the first World War II companies that were parachuters or paratroopers, right? And they stormed Normandy and everything like that. And they have some amazing and also some terrible examples of leadership. And there was the Battle of the Bulge, right? Towards the end of World War II, and the Nazis were advancing. It was in Belgium, and the Easy Company they were staying put. and they were undermanned, underarmed, and they had to take over a city, actually. And there was someone named Lieutenant Dyke. And Lieutenant Dyke, he went through I think he was a West Point grad. He was high-ranking. He knew all the right people, but he was not default aggressive. He was default passive and deflect to other people. And anytime a decision came up to him, his decision was, okay, I gotta go make a call. And he would walk away and no one would ever hear from him again. They were like, where's Lieutenant Dyke? They never knew where he was. And he was finally tasked by someone superior to him to go take a city. And then they're under fire. They're hiding behind barricades. The Germans have him pinned down. And there's 3 people, sir, what do we do? What do we do? And he says, I don't know. He had no idea what to do. But there was a hard-charging person with a default aggressive offensive mindset named Lieutenant Spears.
Oh, Spears is the man. I know the episode. Keep going.
Yeah, and you can just picture it now. Lieutenant Spears is like, I'm taking over. He went to his superior, said, I'm taking over. You sit tight. This is my job now. And he sprinted. He was so audacious. And he knew that something had to be done, something so crazy. He sprinted through enemy lines, through the city. He got to a post on the other side of the city where there was a U.S. battalion. I think they were stuck there. And then he was supposed to sit tight there, and he got the message to him, and he came back to his team. And he said that the observers that were recounting this experience said that the Germans were so shocked, it was as if they saw a ghost, because someone was being so aggressive, and they had a plan in mind. He wasn't just running around to take fire. He had a plan. I'm going straight up the middle, and I'm getting to their side. I'm relaying the message on the attack plans, and I'm coming back. And like you said, because of this action, it defeated fear. And also the Germans didn't know what to expect. They were like, this is a ghost. No one would ever do this.
And not only did the Germans not know how to react, so now your problem is stumped. Whatever issue you're dealing with, you've won it. You've got the upper hand. Lieutenant Spears now has confidence. His people gained confidence. They were ready to fight. They didn't know what to do. Everyone was anxious. Everyone was scared. As soon as they saw someone act, it empowered their action also.
Exactly. Because action, a lot of people think, I got to build up this guy's confidence so they'll want to go out into the world. It's the opposite. You need to have what's called progressive exposure. Well, action creates confidence first. Action creates faith. Faith without works is dead. And not, same way the other way around. Work without faith is dead. You need to be able to act, which then creates confidence. A lot of us want to get hyped up for something, but you got to take those steps forward. And to build that confidence, you got to have what's called progressive exposure. If someone lacks confidence, if someone's not being aggressive because of that, then you have to help them do it slowly and surely. Have you ever heard that term, progressive exposure? You know what I'm referring to?
I think Jordan B. Peterson talks about that. Like when you have a phobia or a fear, let's say of elevators.
Yes.
He says he'll take the person into the hallway where there's an elevator and they'll just look at it from the end of the hallway. And then next week, maybe we'll go push the button and we won't get inside of it. And then maybe next week we'll just watch the door open. And then little by little you're getting exposed to this thing. You don't know how to act. You can't act. You're too scared to act. Eventually you're riding the elevator up and down.
Exactly. And is that not aggressive? It's aggressive. You're doing something that you're terrified to do. And you're doing it step by step. And being offensive and being aggressive doesn't mean you go in without a head-on. You don't go in head-on without a tactically superior plan. You go in with the superior plan and you get your objective done. And being aggressive is taking those steps day by day because you're moving forward.
Yeah, so Major General Doug Chalmers, this is part of Army doctrine again. He talks about the same thing. Don't just jump in without a plan. He says here, anticipation is the ability to foresee operational requirements and initiate actions that satisfy a response without waiting for an operation order or fragmentary order. It is about achieving the ability to attack at just the right time and place. So maybe you're setting yourself up for the right action. And then when it's ready to go, you act. So with one of these issues we were dealing with, our boss, we needed immediate action. It was holding back other leaders. This problem affected probably 4 or 5 other leaders. It was an issue. It was a compliance problem from someone that was really hurting the company. We needed to act. So we walked in the boss's office and said, hey, this is the right solution. Do you agree? Yes. Everyone's hesitant to do it. Leadership is scared to do it. It was a bold move. So I said, look, I'll do it. I'm going to do this action. And I'm okay if there's some backlash. I'll even take the backlash. I just need to know you're not going to fire me. As long as this is good, as long as you're okay with this, let's act. And we acted. We got the issue taken care of. Life is good now. We are not dealing with the same problems we had last week.
That's so funny. I know you're not a big Office fan, but I know there's some people out there that have probably watched The Office, and it's a show about a small branch of a paper selling company. And Michael, who is the president of that branch, he's forced to make budget cutbacks, which means laying someone off. And he doesn't want to. He wants to be the nice guy that everyone loves. And he has a right-hand man named Dwight Schrute, and he's kind of radical, but he's someone that's a hard charger. And it's a Halloween episode, so Dwight's dressed up like a Sith Lord, and he's got a hood on and white paint. And Michael's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to fire. And Dwight's like, fire Kevin. Fire. Do it. Do it now. No one likes him. Fire Kevin. Do it. Do it now. To give me the power. I'll do it. I'm going to count down from 3. 3, 2, 1. Do it now. And Michael's like, just sitting there with a expressionless face, just not wanting to act. And it's so funny when people want to be aggressive and they give someone an option, they still don't want to do it.
Still don't want to do it. But it's helpful for everyone.
Yes.
So you made me think of another example. When I used to train in our call center here at doTERRA, I was given the position of mentor. And I had a couple dozen people that I was supposed to visit and mentor them and help them grow. There was one agent that I was assigned to that was particularly challenging. He was just bad. He was not good at his job. He made mistakes daily that cost the company money. He would make orders to the wrong place. Shipping was bad. He'd do replacement orders that didn't make any sense. He would mess up orders. He would charge people's credit cards for stuff they didn't buy. He was terrible. And I was supposed to help mentor him and fix him. He wasn't making progress. There was no hope for this guy. Not in this position. He had other talents. This was not the position for him. Everyone was scared to fire him or move him or do something else. So you got to get aggressive. Let's figure out this problem. Everyone's tap dancing around the problem. As my mother-in-law says, I like to go all the way around the bushes. English is a second language. People are beating around the bush. So I went and sat down and did a calculation. And I figured out that this guy was costing the company $863 was the amount I came up with. He was a part-time employee. Every time you step in the door, and I sat down and told him this, just by you showing up today, you cost the company $863. We're taking a loss just by you being here. We could earn more money to pay you to stay home. This is not benefiting the company, and I know you're not happy. You're not enjoying it here. Let's look at your skills. What do you like to do? Let's sharpen up your resume. We did. We sat down. We sharpened up his resume. I helped him apply for 3 or 4 other jobs. He got another job. He contacted me a month later and said, I'm loving my job. I'm actually good at this thing. I'm successful. The company now is not losing $863 a day, and he's actually doing something he's happy with doing. So sometimes the actions you're going to take are difficult. Unless you're sick, nobody enjoys firing someone. No one enjoys making these hard decisions. But that person's not happy. No one's benefiting by this situation. Let's get aggressive and figure out a solution that's good for everyone.
Exactly. And kind of getting back to your point about taking little steps for the big plan that you want to achieve, it made me think of a concept in football. And football seems to be one of the most misunderstood sports out there. They just think of it as violence and they don't see very much strategy going into it. But in football, everyone knows that you want to score touchdowns. You want to be aggressive and you want to score touchdowns, but it's very strategical. And there's a very common mindset on offense where you want to establish running the ball. If you can, even though everyone wants to throw big Hail Mary touchdown passes because you score touchdowns quick. But this is hard when the defense knows exactly what you're going to do. Everyone, if you're that team that wants to throw long passes and score touchdowns quick, the defense knows exactly what you're doing. And so your aggressive and your offensive plan isn't very effective. And so what they try to do, when I was at BYU, we were a very run-heavy offense. And when you can do that, when you can run the ball, anyone go watch a football game, I almost guarantee the first down, the first play of an offensive series, the offense will try to run the football because they're trying to establish dominance. They're trying to establish the offense because if you start running the football, it sets you up for the defense to try to adjust to that. And they'll try to stop you from running the football. And then there's a play on offense called the play action, where you pretend like you're about to run the football and then the quarterback passes it to someone. And so when you're being aggressive, you're also being strategic and you're setting up those small things into place, the progressive things. You're being aggressive. Nothing's more aggressive than running the football straight down a defense. And when you do that, then it opens you up for a play action pass, meaning the defense is expecting you to run the ball and you pass the ball. And that's one of the best ways you could be aggressive in life. You establish your intention at the beginning, being aggressive, running the football, and then that sets you up for an easier thing down the road, doing the hard things right now.
Yeah, like I said before, your problem is not going to go away. It only gets bigger, whatever problem it is. If you have a personality problem, if you have a laziness problem, if you're not getting out of bed on time, if you have a problem in your relationship with your significant other or your dad, you're not doing anyone's favors by ignoring this issue. Let's identify it. Let's take care of it. Let's be aggressive about it. So I told you I have a book here from Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, The Dichotomy of Leadership. I want to just read 2 paragraphs out of here to help us really narrow down, to help us focus more on our scope, what offensive means. So this is Jocko Willink here. Problems aren't going to solve themselves. A leader must get aggressive and take action to solve them and implement a solution. Being too passive, waiting for a solution to appear, often enables a problem to escalate and get out of control. The enemy isn't going to back off. The leader must get aggressive and put the enemy in check. The good deal isn't going to deliver itself to a company. The leader has to go out and make a good deal happen. Changes and new methodologies in a team aren't going to implement themselves. Leaders need to aggressively implement them. An aggressive mindset should be the default setting of any leader. Default, aggressive. This means that the best leaders, the best teams, don't wait to act. Instead, understanding the strategic vision or commander's intent, they aggressively execute to overcome obstacles, capitalize immediate opportunities, accomplish the mission, and win. So that all makes sense on a personal level. I want to get your opinion on something then that you see a problem, but it's not necessarily within your control to handle. I want to get aggressive. I want to fix this issue. Maybe at work, it's an interdepartmental problem. There's a problem with another department that needs to be handled. You don't have direct stewardship or authority over that, but maybe it affects your work. How do we get aggressive in that? I'm thinking of an example a few weeks ago. We found an issue with another department, our placements department. We let placements know, hey, this is an issue. It does affect the work of the people, our leaders that we deal with, our top sellers. We need this fixed. We reported to them. They said, no, this is an IT problem. It does have to do with placements, but IT has to program this, so it's an IT problem, so they have to fix it. We tell IT. IT says, sorry, that's a placements issue. This is their website. This is their thing. Everyone's batting this around. No one wants to be aggressive and solve the problem. It's not in my realm of authority. I'm not in charge of either of these people. How do you handle, that's just one example. I'm thinking in life generally. How do you handle an issue that nobody wants to handle and that's not directly in your control?
So you can be aggressive through aggressive communication. You're aggressively trying to figure out, in this example you gave me, people were deflecting. So that means that they're lacking clarity of role. So if you're going to be aggressive from the outside, oh man, you asked me a hard question.
That is a hard question. Well, I want to think about this. I know you got some good advice. Another example, in a family relationship, for example, I want to implement something with my kids. My son has a problem, but maybe my wife doesn't like the solutions that I'm offering. I can't implement this without her buy-in. We kind of need to be a united family. Or I go to a church and I'm really bothered by the group of deacons that does this thing, but I don't work with deacons. It's not under my stewardship, but I want this fixed. My kids are being distracted and my wife's not having a good spiritual experience because of this. This is outside of my realm of authority, but it's a problem that I want solved in my neighborhood, in my family, and at work. Do I just let these things go? Do I just let it be? Do I disconnect? Or do I need to be aggressive and try to solve these problems? At what point is being overly aggressive with things that I can't really control not healthy for me?
Exactly. So without feedback, no one can get better. And feedback usually tends to come from the outside. So when you're being aggressive with solving these issues, that doesn't mean you're hard charging, telling people that they're wrong because you're trying to correct them. Recently, we went through the Arbinger Institute outward mindset, which I, had a hard time understanding how being outward wasn't aggressive. But no, you got to approach it with a diplomatic sense where You find the person that you understand that, yeah, this isn't underneath your stewardship. You're not in charge of the deacons. You know what I mean? But you find the people that are, and you validate them. Hey, we appreciate coming to church. We appreciate the way that the deacons are magnifying their priesthood, and we're getting our renewal of ordinances. But, here's some feedback. Here's some things where I want to bounce some ideas off of you and hear what you have to say about this, and kind of gain perspective. So when we attack this, we attack it from a diplomatic standpoint. We never come in charging someone, telling them that they're wrong right from the get-go. We tend to, being aggressive and being diplomatic is playing to the ego of the other person and trying to get their perspective. Because what if the deacons are hard to correct? What if he's being aggressive with, or the person that you're trying to help, what if they're already being aggressive and trying to correct that behavior? What if they need your help? And if we come to it with our own solutions, trying to tell them what they're doing wrong, they might not appreciate that. Before we come to it like, hey, here's our perspective. Here's what we see is going on well.
No, that's a great thought. Thanks. I appreciate that. And I asked the question because I really wanted to know. I think it's helpful to bat ideas around and to talk and to share some ideas. I really do want to know. I think sometimes I'm overly aggressive with things that I'm stepping out of my lane. This isn't in my lane. Like you said, role clarity. I shouldn't have to correct that. I need to disconnect sometimes. So I wonder if there is a boundary. This is something I can't affect, so I'm going to pull back. Or this is something that I should affect change in. This is an area where I can improve, so I'm going to engage.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that are like that are out of our stewardship is all having that diplomatic effect is helping them understand that what's going on has an effect in our work. And we're all working towards the same objective, especially here at doTERRA. It's for spreading the essential oils, spreading the mission. And so relating how this affects our line of work to them and validating what they're doing and kind of finding that connection, finding the common ground of the objective tends to lower people's guard. And then even though it's outside your stewardship, if we're able to use that kind of language, that kind of mutual understanding, it tends to help people lower down their guard a little bit.
That's good advice. You're really good at that. You're a diplomat. I think you score much higher on agreeableness than I do on the Big Five personality test. You're great at that. As you were talking, I was remembering Jordan B. Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life. Rule number 6 he has is set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. There's all these memes from JBP about clean your room. Maybe I'm too aggressive sometimes, and there's problems I need to fix. Biblically, Jesus used to teach, take the beam out of your own eye before you try to correct, before you take the mote out of your brother's eye. So maybe there is a point. Can you be overly aggressive, I guess is the question at its root, what I'm asking here. Is there a point where you're too aggressive to where you're not being helpful and maybe you're causing more chaos than you're solving?
I think that there is, because then we get to be nitpicky. And Jordan B. was actually talking about how he did the math, and you come home to your wife and you don't like the way that she greets you every day. And he says that if you let that slide, that's 10 minutes. You spend about 10, 20 minutes thinking about that every day over the course of years. But throughout your life, that's 2% of your life that's bothering you. And so, yeah, you could be a little bit too nitpicky, but if there is something that is really bothering you, then you need to address it. But you need to do it through the right stages. And also, I think that we need to change the way we view aggression as competent. And Jordan B. was talking about lobsters and serotonin. Are you familiar with that study?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so going back to his book, 12 Rules for Life, one of the golden rules is stand up straight with your shoulders back. And that has an effect on your competence because it's not a dominant stance. Lobsters and this is biologically programmed in us. If lobsters were to stand up straight, the neurochemistry would start to create serotonin because of their stance. And that's why people that tend to have that stance, they tend to be more confident and they tend to be placed in more competent roles. And so I think that more aggressive people tend to have that more competent stature about them. And when we talked about being defensive and not doing much, that also is related to being a prey animal. So Jordan B. Peterson said about this, it's not a dominant stance, having your standing up straight with your shoulders back. It's a competent stance, and competence tends to be dominant. To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to open yourself up to the world. You're not in a defensive crouch of a prey animal. And so, yeah, we need people to be aggressive, but we also need them to be competent. We don't want to be aggressive over things that our ego is telling us seems wrong. We need to make sure that what we're being aggressive about is something that really has to do with competence.
That makes sense. It's good feedback. So Jocko, again, from his book, says aggressive doesn't mean personally aggressive with people or aggression. It means proactive. It doesn't mean that leaders can get angry, lose their temper, or be aggressive toward people. A leader must always deal professionally with subordinates on the team, peers, leaders, up the chain of command, customers or clients, and personnel in supporting roles outside the immediate team. Speaking angrily to others is ineffective. Losing your temper is a sign of weakness. It is critical to balance aggression with careful thought and analysis to make sure that risks have been assessed and mitigated. You're really good at this. You're thoughtful, but you are aggressive. You're a big guy. If people haven't met you before, you are, like I talked about, that big guy that I had to fight that one time. You're 4 or 5?
6'5", yeah.
6'5". When you were playing football, you were how big? How many pounds?
About 305.
3'5". What are you weighing now?
I'm about 255 right now. I'll drop about 50 pounds.
But it's solid 255, man. I've seen you in the gym. So you're a very aggressive guy. You get after it personally, physically, but you're also very thoughtful. I'm super, super aggressive. My default mode is always aggressive. Even when I got married, I proposed to my wife and said, hey, you ready to get married? She said, yes. She's like, well, this is going to be great. It was August. I proposed to her. So she's like, yes, it's going to be a December wedding. It's going to be wonderful. I said, no, I was thinking like Tuesday, Wednesday. What day works good for you? And we did. So we got married that same week. We went to the courthouse. We got married. We did it quick. I'm just ready to make it happen. Why are we going to wait to plan this out? You took a much different approach to your dating life. I think you told me you wanted to date for every season of the year.
All 4 seasons. I wanted to make sure I understood as much about her as I could during every season of the year, and her understand as much about me, during all 4 seasons of the year is kind of a promise I made myself. And it worked for both of us.
Yeah, so is that not aggressive? For people that are not like me and not as actively aggressive, you started dating. Once you got serious, you seriously dated for 4 whole seasons. Would you not count that as aggressive, or how do you classify that?
That's a great question. So I still count it as aggressive because during those 4 seasons, during that whole year that we dated, about a year and 2 months before we got engaged, we were aggressively doing everything we possibly could to get to know each other. We were going on road trips together. We were going to yoga together. We were going hiking together. We were watching movies. We were discussing philosophies, stuff like that. So I was aggressively getting to know her and her as with me as much as possible so that we knew that we could make the best decision possible to get married. And because of that, we armed ourselves with as much knowledge as possible. Instead of knowledge preceding the action caused us to gain knowledge with each other. We weren't passively dating. Like we were basically married before getting married. We're together all the time. So because of that, I consider it aggressive.
Okay. I guess one last question for you, just trying to round out my thoughts here and make sure we're implementing this principle of war correctly. Offensive. I asked you about things that aren't in my control. Maybe some things I need to let go. Maybe some things involve being diplomatic and building relationships with other people. What about something that's completely within my control? So actually 2 more questions I wanted to ask. One, the things that I do have complete control over, they don't land in anyone else's stewardship. This is something that's mine. It's not interdepartmental. It's not interrelationship. This is me. I've got complete control over it. Is there any point or aspect in my life that I don't want to apply this principle of war to? Principle or default aggressive. Principle offensive. Do I need to apply this to every aspect of my life?
That's a great question. And again, it's not attacking every single aspect because Jocko, Kurt, Andrew, they say to be aggressive. I think that being aggressive towards every aspect of your life is being cognizant of it and having a plan and moving towards that plan. And you gotta prioritize, make sure that what is most important to you, you are going to attack. And you're going to make sure that if you have weaknesses, you're going to attack those weaknesses too. I hate this idea of I'm only going to focus on my strengths and be aggressive on my strengths and I'm going to just not even think about my weaknesses. No, you need to aggressively. So yeah, you know what? Be aggressive towards every aspect of your life because if you have weaknesses that you refuse to acknowledge, you're going to get surrounded and cut off by the enemy. Just like any military base, If you're just going to focus on, our main entrance is so heavily guarded, we got all of our troops there, we got all of our guns pointed there, I dare someone to attack this. A smart enemy, or your weakness, or your ego, they're going to creep up behind, they're going to dig holes, they're going to see where you're not being vigilant. So yeah, be aggressive towards every aspect of your life. I mean, your resources and your time are limited, so you have to prioritize and execute. But I think at least being cognizant, at least having a plan for every part of your life and taking steps towards that life, just like in football, making sure you're running the ball, you're getting that 1 yard gain, that 2 yard gain, that's setting you up for a long touchdown pass.
Okay, that's a good answer. I remember when we took, as a group, the Gallup Strengths Finder test and read the book. You weren't very happy with just focusing on our top 5 strengths.
No, that doesn't do anyone any favors, because if you want to just ignore something because it seems not fun, that doesn't go away. You've said that multiple times on this podcast. That does not go away. So you don't work yourself into the ground. Again, being aggressive does not mean you're going 150% into all aspects of your life, because that'll burn you out and that's not plausible. But when we're asking you to be aggressive, that means that you're going to get after. You're going to be cognizant. You're going to analyze these areas of your life, and you're going to have a plan, and you're going to take steps towards that plan, that progressive exposure. And if you do that every single day, you're going to make that progress. It makes me think about the gym. I try to go to the gym every single day, and even the days I wake up and I'm tired and I'm not feeling it, I go through the motions. And sometimes I feel like I don't break a sweat, but I'm being aggressive because I'm attacking my weakness, which was I was being tired mentally. I didn't want to go, and I know that I had made goals to have health goals that week, so I had to go show up at the gym. And even though I wasn't dying with sweat, I could have said, I wasn't very aggressive during this workout. I showed up and I executed my plan, and I beat my weakness. I won. I showed up to the gym and I lifted weights.
Great answer. Great. I don't have anything to add. So my last question then, and then you can close with some thoughts. If I'm listening to this and I'm liking everything you're telling me, and I want to apply the principle of offensive in my life, I want to be more default aggressive, where's a good place to start? If this is not me, or if I'm struggling to be aggressive, what steps can I take to improve?
Well, like you said, we want to make sure that we have our house in a line, right? So you need to make personal goals. You need to figure out what's important to you. And I think that, I joke about this all the time, we talk about taking the stairs versus taking the elevator, and how taking the stairs every single day makes you a more aggressive account manager. And so I would make a list of teeny things that make you feel uncomfortable that you can do daily. I think that is one of the best things you can do to make you have an aggressive mindset, because you're attacking the small weaknesses. It is so easy to show up at work and press that button and get into a metal box that'll take you upstairs without burning any calories, and that'll make you soft for the rest of the day. And then I feel like if you're feeling like you're not aggressive, you need to do more uncomfortable things in your life. Not go out there and sing on top of a soapbox in the middle of Temple or Madison Square Garden or something crazy like that. But doing small things like taking the elevator. If you hate the gym, go once this week, and then the next week go twice, and then the next week go 3 times. Find something small that you can do that'll make you better, that makes you uncomfortable.
By small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. Good advice. I like that too. For me, just being productive in one area gives me momentum. It helps get things going. The very first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I make my bed before I do anything else. As soon as I get out of bed, so that way I know I'm already starting off on a good pace, on a good rhythm. Even if my wife's still asleep in the bed, I make my side of the bed.
You told me that.
Yeah. She's still in bed, and I'm pulling the covers a little bit so I'm putting one over my pillow. I'm straightening so that way I'm already accomplished. I'm already being productive. I'm already getting things done early in the morning. And then that builds momentum, and then I keep moving. My last piece of advice here, and then you can close, is a poem from Marianne Williamson. I first heard this when I watched Coach Carter. You remember that movie?
Oh, I love Coach Carter.
Timo Cruz, back in the day. Timo Cruz quoted this. I'm going to give the whole quote. He quotes about half of it. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and famous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. I think too often we're frozen by inaction, by inability to start being aggressive or to start to act because we think, who are we? Am I enough? Am I valuable? Am I worthy of this? There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates us. And that's going back to the quote we shared before. Action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. So if you're feeling stifled, if you're feeling like you're not growing, if you're not as aggressive as you want to be, start acting. Action will build momentum. It'll restore and build your confidence. You'll get aggressive by doing those small things. Not taking the elevator, taking the stairs, making your bed first thing before you go brush your teeth or check your phone. Start acting. You'll build that confidence. You'll get aggressive. You'll see more success in your personal life, in your career life, in your family life. Get aggressive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You nailed it on the head. You can do small and simple things daily to build the confidence, because like we said earlier, confidence doesn't lead to action. Little teeny things you can do daily is what builds your confidence until you're ready for that moment. You got to drink milk before eating meat, but drinking milk is still something. That's better than nothing, you know. Little shout out to Kobe Bryant to end this. He said, because some people might be afraid of being proactive. Some people might be afraid of actually feeling success because that'll give them responsibility of doing what they were doing to have that success. And so I think that being aggressive is getting used to having success and being used to having that responsibility placed on you. And I know it's scary at first, but that's how you get used to it. He said, everything negative, pressure, challenges is an opportunity for me to rise. And so while you are being aggressive, you will be met with resistance. Just because we're seeing you being aggressive, and I know I shared that experience of Lieutenant Spears not being shot at by the Germans, that doesn't guarantee you that if you are default aggressive, that everyone's going to bow down to you. You'll be met with resistance. But think of it this way. While you are trying your best to be aggressive and get out of your comfort zone, whenever you meet the pressures and the challenges and the negativity, it's an opportunity for you to rise, and you will grow through it. And Jocko says here, and that is what aggression is to me, the unstoppable fighting spirit. You're not stopping, you're not giving up. The drive, the burning desire to achieve mission success using every possible tool, asset, and strategy and tactic to bring about victory. And that applies that if you're using every tool, that you're experiencing failure along the way. If you fail, you're going to look for something else, a different way. But if you're failing and you're still looking for ways to achieve that goal, you're being aggressive. And if that kind of internal, relentless aggression is your default mode, you will win. You don't lose fear, you gain courage.
And it doesn't have to be a perfect plan. If you have a plan, I don't know if I quoted this already, but General Patton is famous for saying, a good plan, violently executed now, is much better than a perfect plan executed next week. Start today. Pick something today. Pick one small thing. Appreciate your thoughts, Andrew. Excellent podcast. Excellent topic. This is Examined Leadership. We want you to look deeper. We want you to be better. Thanks for being here.
Signing off.